Hello, my name is Casey Miller. I am the Employment Coordinator at Sources for Community Independent Living, and I am here today with David Robbins and Shannon Long, the Work Incentives Coordinators at Sources for Project AWIN. This month in October, we are celebrating National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which is basically a celebration of all individuals with disabilities who are working, who are returning to work. And so Sources just wants to celebrate that by giving information to people about returning to work. And in this segment, we are going to be talking about work incentives and how work incentives can help individuals with disabilities return to work. I just want to start out by saying that this is a virtual meeting, so we may have some glitches along the way, and I'm going to do my best to pause in whatever situation we may encounter and retry the information so that we can get it out there the way we want to present it. And by that, I think we can get started. David, could you tell us a bit about Project AWIN?
Yes, Casey, Project AWIN was a program that was started around 2000. It is based on the Work Incentive Planning Assistance Grant by Social Security Administration. Of course, we all work for Sources for Community Independent Living as a nonprofit organization that holds the grant, as the umbrella that has the grant. And the Project AWIN has been all about giving information to individuals who are pursuing employment or already working, and they receive some sort of Social Security-based disability benefit, whether it's SSI or Social Security disability insurance. We help those individuals navigate how benefits might be affected, and state benefits as well when they're working, how that's going to work out for them. So that's what Project AWIN does in a nutshell, and has been doing for about the last 20 years.
Very good. Shannon, how can benefits counselors help individuals with disabilities in returning to work?
Well, as David said, we help people who are on SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and or SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, understand Social Security work incentives that allow them to possibly keep some of their benefit, and also their health care, which is probably of greatest concern to most people with disabilities. We help them navigate the reporting requirements for Social Security as well as DHS. As David said, there are some state Medicaid programs people with disabilities may be receiving, and we just provide them with a host of work incentives for them to understand, how work will impact their benefits, so that they can make an informed decision on their work goals, whether they're going to work part-time, full-time, what they can try and see what they can do. We just encourage people to go to work or try going to work, because there's a myth out there that says if I go to work, my benefits are going to be taken away from me forever. And they're just going to cut me off. Well, that, in some cases, every case is different. So, but that's normally not the case. I mean, there's a whole host of safety nets for, transitioning off or possibly getting back on. And we just help people kind of understand these things, that you can keep some of your benefits. And it's a way to incentivize people to go to work and see what they can do.
Yeah. Can an individual work and also keep their Social Security benefits?
That is where things get a little more complicated. Both the SSI program and Social Security Disability Program has very, very different rules about how work impacts those cash benefits. And there are certain breaks with the SSI program, depending on what the circumstances, how old they are, if they're a student, things like that. All of those things come into play. There are certain breaks that people get. So the long and short on it is, with the SSI program, for example, there's usually going to be some reduction, but not necessarily. With the Social Security Disability Program, they can make up to a certain amount, and beyond that, eventually they, have to be prepared to come off that cash benefit, at least on, month to month, depending on what they're doing. And so it just depends. Each program depends on how much they're going to be earning, which program they're in, what other incentives might be involved, such as age, student status. There's some variables there, and expenses that they may have out of pocket related to their disability and working, things like that. Those are sometimes things that get play. If they're blind, blind individuals are allowed to earn a lot more on that program, for example, and get different breaks on the SSI program. And so so in some cases it actually depends on what your disability is, whether or not how much you can earn and it affect them. So these are all the things that obviously we can't get into too much detail on this one. But it's not rocket science. Like I say, it's not rocket science, none of this, but it's just complicated enough that if you're not dealing with it on a daily basis, you need to come see one of us. Because it can get real complicated, and when they get both benefits, it gets very complicated.
Yes.
Yeah, and on that note, I will just throw our phone number out there so that they can contact you if they have any questions about how work is going to affect their Social Security. You can contact David and Shannon at 479-442-5600 and just ask for Shannon Long or David Robbins. I know a big fear with people is that they're going to lose their health insurance, Medicare and Medicaid. Can one of you talk on if that's a valid fear or if that's something that people don't have to worry about so much?
Well, it is a valid fear. That's one of our top questions. What's going to happen to my health insurance? I myself, as a disabled person, very much rely on that insurance. So it's a valid fear, but there's good news. When people are working on SSI and SSDI, yes, you can work and you can keep your health insurance. With SSI, there's a work incentive called 1619B, where you can keep your Medicaid up to an annual threshold, which typically changes every year. And with SSDI, there is something called the extended period for Medicare coverage. The Medicare can last for many, many, many years, even if someone were to give up their cash payment due to working a successful full-time job. Yes, the fears are valid, but we can address those fears and calm those fears and say, you are going to keep your health insurance. And now there are caps at a certain point, obviously, with earnings or with time, but even there are state options. There are state Medicaid options where people can transition to. So we just help people explore these options and then let them know what they would qualify for or what they're going to continue receiving, which is just another important reason to call us.
Yeah. David, could you tell us about Ticket to Work? What is the Ticket to Work program?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is if I was putting Ticket to Work in the dictionary, I would start out with this. Got to be the most misunderstood federal program in the nation. Ticket to Work. Ticket to Work is very misunderstood. I hope this video will rectify that for some individuals. What Ticket to Work does at its core is protects people who are disabled while they're working from medical reviews that could change their status of being disabled. So that's what it does. I say Ticket does, and it does beautifully, is when someone goes to work, and I use the example, someone's in a car wreck, they're pretty banged up and they're recovering, and they want to give work a shot. They're still on the mend, they're trying to get back in it and just not sure how it's going to go. Use that scenario, and they go back to work and they activate that ticket, and that Ticket to Work guarantees while they're working and while they're in the program that Social Security can't come along and say, oh, look, you're all better now, you're no longer disabled, and then they can't fall back on their benefits. So it takes that away. It takes that out of the equation. They can, Social Security cannot medically review them. They have to keep their hands off while a person's in ticket to work. So that's what it does at its core, but it's multifaceted, and it does have its, kind of feelers out into other things. It, can get people connected with resources such as employment networks who might assist them in finding work. It can get connected when someone goes to Arkansas Rehabilitation in our state or any state, the VOC Rehabilitation Service for that state. They can sometimes get training or education expenses paid for and things like that. But what Ticket does primarily is protects folks when they're working from the fear of having that disability decision changed on them.
Yeah. Can SSA help an individual go to school? And by SSA, I should probably specify Social Security Administration. Can the Social Security Administration help someone with going to school?
Well, there is a work incentive called the PASS program, PASS, Plan for Achieving Self-Support. And the PASS program allows people to use their funds, their already existing funds, to help pay for things like maybe school tuition, self-employment startup costs, basically expenses needed to ultimately reach their work goal. It's a very underutilized program, but it's also, many Social Security programs, really complicated. So David and I assess people for the PASS program. If someone calls and they're interested in it, or even if they're not, we always assess people if the PASS program might be a good fit for them. As David mentioned, Arkansas Rehab Services is a resource that also helps with possibly paying for one's education. So, we point out resources that they might be eligible for or better fitting to receive. But yes, Social Security does have a program that's possible someone can use. I guess we have to assess people. Not everyone qualifies, not everyone would be eligible. But if we do find that would be a good fit, we also help them fill out the PASS application and get the information needed to kind of move it through the Social Security ranks and hopefully garner a good decision out of it.
Yeah. So what happens if an individual has returned to work, their benefits have lapsed, and they can no longer work, and they need their benefits back? How do they get their benefits back? What does that look like?
Well, of course, back to the Ticket to Work program, by securing their medical decision, that's so important in all of this. By securing that, then they're guaranteed that status of being disabled allows them access to some of these back to their cash benefits if they need them. The timelines are different. The way all of that interacts is different for SSI versus Social Security disability insurance. Mm-hmm. And so those are things that we have to get in a particular case as to how that works out. With the SSI program, and even if you completely zero your cash benefit for an entire year straight, they still have kept your case open. They're watching every month during that time. And then after that, you've got up to 5 years that you can fall back on benefits. Again, assuming that disability decision is still in place. With Social Security disability insurance, you've got your 9-month trial work period where you're working and you're getting your benefits the whole time, even if you're working full time. Then you got the grace period after that. And for 3 years after their 9 trial work months are used up, they can fall right back on their benefits without skipping a beat, without filling out a bunch of paperwork. It's just contact the local office, let them know you're dropped to half time or you're not working anymore and whatever. It's a very simple process. And for up to 5 years after whenever the last cash benefit was received. So in other words, it could go on for many, many years where they could file expedited reinstatement. And that is a little more complicated, and it takes a bunch of stack of paperwork being filled out, but they'll provisionally give their benefits back and then later follow up with a medical review. But they do get quick access back to their benefits. So it's not like people go to work and Social Security kicks them right out and they can't get back to them. There's a very long process to all of that in either program. And they've made it to where people have those safety nets so that they can step out and experiment with work for long periods of time and not have to worry about, if things just don't work out, getting back to those benefits.
Very good. I think that's all the questions I had for today. Do you guys have anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to follow up. We help people understand all of these safety nets, and we encourage people to try work, whether it's part-time or full-time, whatever their work goals are, and just squash some of those myths out there that you're just going to lose everything. It's going to be permanent. It's not, and we can help you transition into part-time or full-time work with your work goals, as well as do problem solving in regards to Social Security and DHS. If issues arise, we can help you kind of navigate through those. But yeah, I think we're a great resource. If we could plug ourselves right now, and please do call. If you have any questions.
Most definitely. For the listeners out there, we talk about this stuff every day. So we know how confusing this world is from your perspective. So don't be afraid to give David Shannon a call or myself if you have questions specifically about Ticket to Work. Our number is 479-442-5600. And just ask for David Shannon Long, or myself, Casey Miller, and we'd be glad to help. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to record this for the folks out there, and I really appreciate you answering the questions so well.
All right. Well, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us,
All
Casey.
right. We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.